Hey guys, Dr. Ben here. Welcome. I've got Dr. Jake Walden here. He works with us at F8 and excited to have him on today for some live Q&A. Dr. Jake is an expert in the functional neurology world as well as functional medicine, so he'll have some different perspectives. So bring some of your brain questions, bring some of your neurology questions, and we will love to answer those. So welcome guys. Pop down below where you're watching from and type in any question that you have. Remember, when we do these live Q&As, it's all about the underlying why. Why is the body having these issues, and not just how much of this should I take, how much vitamin D, what's the best supplement for that. You know, those are fine, but ultimately, just like we posted a link this morning, that statin drugs, taking a statin drug increases diabetes risk substantially, even up to 50%, if not more, increased risk of diabetes if somebody's taking a statin drug. And so again, it's not about, well, statin drugs are bad. Well, possibly they are, but it's about how do we get cholesterol down naturally, as opposed to, oh, we've got to do this supplement to get rid of the diabetes, or what supplement can we take for cholesterol. So welcome guys. There we go. And Andrew, what markers do you guys run when suspicious of autoimmune? So in our routine panel, that this is whether you're a 6-year-old or a 36-year-old, we are going to be running ANA, which tells us about lupus, potential Sjogren's, mixed connective tissue disorder. We run rheumatoid factor, which is telling us about rheumatoid arthritis. And then we run both Hashimoto's markers. Dr. Jake, you want to tell them about the Hashimoto's markers there and why we run 2 of those?
Well, a lot of people don't realize that Hashimoto's actually has 2 different ways you can affect it. You can have one, the other, or both. So you have anti-TPO, and that's the one that really actually, there's an enzyme in the thyroid that kind of helps us make the thyroid molecule. It's kind of like the machine that makes it. And you can attack that portion of the thyroid, or you can have what's called anti-TG, or anti-thyroglobulin. That is the molecule that, it's kind of like the bus or the chauffeur that actually carries our thyroid molecules through the body. And you can have an immune reaction to that. So one is actually directly a thyroid issue, but the other one, surprisingly, actually doesn't attack our thyroid at all, and it tends to be the one that's not as tested as much, and the one that a lot of people don't realize. But when that one's having the issue, you're not actually having a thyroid problem itself, but your thyroid molecule actually isn't being delivered to anywhere else in the body. So it's a really important one, because you can have one, TG, TPO, or both of them.
So with that, if any of you guys think you have Hashimoto's, been tested for Hashimoto's, you have to know which of those 2. So if somebody comes in and says, oh, I've got Hashimoto's, first thing I say is which one, and most people don't know, but it's very important because it's the bus that is moving that, which is very important to know that difference. So we test those markers on everybody that comes in, and we find about 20-25% of our patients are going to have either that ANA or the rheumatoid factor show up, and a lot of them don't even know it. So like for my mom that had MS, I would have much rather got a hold of her 5 or 10 years before finding out she had MS, as opposed to waiting until she had to go on disability, etc. Alyssa, when talking about exercise, are the exercise bikes, the Peloton type, worth it? So here's the thing with exercise. A lot of people are going to be they got their bike over COVID because they were all locked down. They couldn't get out into the gym and all those things. So people have these Pelotons sitting around. You can probably go get a good deal on one now because people are back in the gym. But the bikes are actually really good for certain people that don't want to go out onto the field and go for jogs or runs, for getting on the treadmill and doing some sprints on the treadmill or going for a run on the treadmill. If you don't feel comfortable doing those things, the bike is a great choice, or even a recumbent bike. But the nice part about this is that you can do some sprints on there, and you're not going to worry about falling down or falling off the treadmill, whatever might happen. And so the research shows, there was a really cool study where they compared 2 groups of people. One did 3 cardiovascular exercises a week for about 30 plus minutes, go for a walk or whatever it was. The other group did 1 time per week, total 7-minute bicycle sprint. So you just go as hard as you can for 7 minutes. Your thighs start feeling like all swollen and got blood flow in there. And they tracked blood sugar just like we do with our patients. And what they found was that the group that did the bicycle sprint, 7-minute in at 1 time a week had better blood sugar stabilization than the group that was doing the cardiovascular. So there's a lot of value to having a bike. Here's where the problem comes in is if somebody's doing an hour spin class. Did you ever do a spin class?
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, it's like talking about adrenal killer. You know, that's like totally what we're talking about when somebody does this hour and a half and they just go out and just push, and they're like screaming at you over their little microphone and go harder. That really stresses out the adrenals. So if somebody has adrenal fatigue starting out, doing that exercise bike for a long time at a real high intensity is very stressful on there. Any thoughts on that, Doc?
Yeah, and one thing just to be aware of with bikes is you always want to vary your exercise because there's different things called neural drive versus neural stabilization and things like that. Just how the brain responds to exercise. When you do a repeated exercise and that's kind of the only thing you do, you tend to tax certain muscles of the body. For example, cycling is really known for taxing what's called the adductor longus that connects really deep up into the pelvic floor and the sacrum. And it can actually cause a lot of lower back pain and knee issues by just doing that cycling. So one of my biggest things with exercise is, yes, I love cycling, but you do have to switch it up. You really do need to keep the brain guessing, and that's where the brain really engages in building muscle and metabolism, because you're keeping it guessing, you're making the brain and the muscle tissue adapt.
In our gym at home, Michelle and I have a treadmill, and it can actually go up to 40% incline, which is pretty crazy. You're going like 1.2 miles an hour, and heart rate's up at 130. We've got a rowing machine, and then we've got the bike we have actually has the arms as well, like the old Schwinn Airdyne type. And so, you know, it's good to have variety in there, and that's one of the biggest things with exercise, with anything, is to keep that brain guessing. All right, Patricia from Montana, with high blood pressure and high cholesterol, what can you do to avoid? So here's what we see. The vast majority of people with high blood pressure, if you stabilize your blood sugar and keep it where you want it, both that cholesterol and that blood pressure are going to go down. That's the simplest thing that you can do. Well, depends on you and what you're eating as far as whether it's simple or not. But it's the simplest thing that you can do as opposed to taking some new supplement. You know, you can take red yeast rice extract, and you can take all of these blood flow increasing supplements or anti-cholesterol, whatever you're trying, these different things. But that's a this for that thought process. Most patients, as we get their blood sugar stabilized, they start dropping some weight, their inflammation goes down, their blood pressure and cholesterol all go down. That's why with every patient that we start with, we use continuous glucose monitor, and we're able to see exactly where that blood sugar is going out of balance. I didn't show you this one yet, but a lady yesterday, she ate a piece of pie two nights ago, and all night long she spiked and dipped 3 or 4 times throughout that night.
Just trying to stabilize.
Yeah, just trying to stabilize. And normal nights, it's just she's right like that. But that was the only difference. Having that pie before bed, she was spiking up and crashing down, spiking. She felt like she was hungover the next day. So, getting that blood sugar stabilized is a huge part of that. Hey, Doris, good to see you, and Suzette. Gina, great to see you as well. And Amar, how long does autophagy take? Say I take a week's worth of cold showers, is it enough? What do you think? You're a cold shower guy?
I'm actually a huge cold shower guy.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time I actually took a legitimate hot shower, in all honesty. So.
Yeah.
But, so you have to come at it from multiple different ways, and that's where, yes, cold showers are great just to kind of stimulate that lymphatic flow, stimulate the nervous system. But we've also got to kind of look at, well, why did that degeneration happen in the first place? Why is the brain reacting? There's actually some pretty legitimate underlying causes to why you're even finding the benefit or seeking out that. Yes, I'm a huge Wim Hof follower. I do his breathing stuff. I do all that cold techniques and whatnot. But I don't think just the cold shower is enough to really turn that around. It is a great lift for your lymphatic and your nervous system, but we also have to look at understanding where the brainstem kind of went wrong in coordinating tone and coordinating basically how it controls that part of the body.
our team, when they come out from Tennessee for training and things, and they'll do cold showers in Colorado versus cold showers in Tennessee. There's definitely a difference in our cold showers here. They're like, yeah, that's like 10 degrees colder on there. So depending where you live, cold may be relative. My skin is peeling and breaking out for 6 months. Why? Jamie, think about this. Anybody out there having skin issues, think about this. Skin is really a window, not into your soul, that's your eyes, but the skin is a window into your body, especially your digestive tract or your hormones. Those are the two things that you need to think about when you're looking at skin, digestive tract, peeling, breaking out, any of that stuff. A lot of times it's microbiome, could be leaky gut, it could even be spilling into an autoimmune, psoriasis. Even a lot of people think eczema is even a huge type of autoimmune. And they don't really usually classify that, but it's either the beginning stages of an autoimmune or it's already autoimmune going on. And then the other is hormones and the breaking out, a lot of those things. If it's not the gut, then you got to dig into the hormones. Could be a PCOS. Double check your testosterone and your DHEA. If those are starting to creep up, we could have an insulin resistance and a PCOS issue. Any other thoughts on that skin?
It's always just to remember the skin is one of your detoxification organs. And when we say detox, it's not some, odd thing. We're just throwing a word out there. The way your liver has to actually take these breakdown products of metabolism and package them, because if it doesn't, those products are actually going to try and steal electrons, or they try and steal other molecules from other working or functional pieces in the body. So pushing it out through the skin, if you're having a lot of skin issues, then yeah, you got to look at what's going on with your kidney, your liver, and your large intestine, and your body's ability to actually kick out these products of metabolism.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Deanne, high blood pressure. Any brain things, any brain tricks for blood pressure that just might be stubborn like that?
So there are a few, and this actually comes from a few gentlemen that won the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Biochemistry about 10 years or so ago, and it deals with your nitric oxide system. It's a 3-part system, and one part is signals, and it's more of like it's an internal hormone mechanism for your vascular system. One part helps recycle the cells, one part helps regrow the cells, and then that last part of that nitric system actually signals the nervous system to come in and connect to the blood vessel. So if that system is off and you're actually destroying more cells than you're building and reconnecting the nerves, you actually wind up losing the neural tone. Besides the endocrine tone for your blood vessels, you wind up losing the neural control and neural tone for that kind of repair system for your vascular system.
So any tricks to that somebody can do at home to try to get those blood vessels calmed down?
So one thing, and that's actually where you do the hot cold. You're just going to try and dry those, and you can even do this. Say it's just your hands or something like that. You can do put them in like hot water, of course, not to the point where it's burning you. We usually say around 110 degrees or something like that, and then you put them into basically ice. And you try and actually force the dilation and expansion. And then a lot of the things we talk about, the nervous system is really a control mechanism, and the brain is very protective of itself. I always joke around that it kind of follows, that old law of Moses, if thy hand offend thee, cut it off. Well, if your brain says, look, my hand's offending me, it's not giving me good feedback, you have a system that's called Valerian Degeneration, where you will actually pull the nerve out of a tissue. And the problem is if you want a healthy nerve, if we break all of neurology down as simple as it can go, proper amounts of glucose, not too little or not too high, proper amounts of oxygen, not too little, not too high, and stimulation. So when I'm talking about rehabbing a nerve and, hey, how can I really get my vascular system back together and my neural control, we need to work on that stimulation, but remember there's those metabolic factors that we really need to consider.
That's why in blood work you've always got to be looking for anemia, and you've got to be looking at that blood sugar. A lot of people, we see their hemoglobin A1C, which is going to be the average of the last 3 months, and that number is actually almost perfect average, but remember, it's about the swings as well. We'll see people swinging 100 points in one day, even though their average is fine. So instead of it being this 20, 25 point swing that we like, that variability is huge, even though it's a perfect average. So A1C doesn't tell us everything about blood sugar. It tells us if it's high or if it's low, but if it's average, doesn't really tell us a whole lot, and that's why we have to look at non-fasting insulin and these other markers that we look for in the blood work. And let's see who else. Pamela, good to see you. Barb in Nebraska. Renee, hello. What do you suggest for people having gallbladder issues, stones, or attacks without stones? A couple interesting things to think about. In traditional Chinese medicine, the gallbladder is most active between 11 and 1 every day, or every night. And so for a lot of people that are kind of night owls, or they're staying up too late, that's when the gallbladder really is trying to dump and clear and regenerate. And so a lot of people that stay up too late, that are more into that night owl phase or in night shifts, they're going to have more gallbladder issues. So one of the first things to do, get to sleep earlier if at all possible, unless you're working night shift. And if you are working night shift, try to get on the day shift. But first things first, get that sleep where it needs to be, to where you're in bed asleep by 10:30 before that gallbladder needs to do what it needs to do. Any other thoughts there,
Well,
Doc?
and remember, we have to look at systems that affect each other, and the liver isn't this standalone, the gallbladder isn't this standalone. So one thing that when the liver has its press and it tries to contribute and squeeze out that bile and that what we call the alkaline wash. And it's called an alkaline wash because the contents coming out of the stomach are acidic, and so they kind of mix together to neutralize it and maximize absorption. A lot of times if your liver is sluggish and it's not pushing, one of the things that can be contributing to it is you actually have a low acid, which means you're getting less acid coming out of the stomach, which means the liver needs to produce less alkaline or less of its products to push. So it actually can be a secondary bile sluggishness due to an upper digestive issue in the stomach or the vagal nerve issue.
And so remember, we've talked about this a bunch. As you age and as you're under stress, anybody doing either of those, stressing or aging? Give me a thumbs up if either of you guys are doing those. So if you're aging or if you're stressing, you're not going to be producing enough stomach acid. There's some thumbs. I don't know. I won't ask which one you're doing. But in today's day and age, this time of year, and there's we've got Christmas coming, and there's presents and all parties and all these things. You've got a lot of stressors going on. So you can be in fight or flight, or resting and digesting, but it's really hard to do both at the same time. So if we're constantly thinking about running from that mountain lion, you're not going to be making stomach acid like you're supposed to. So here's 3 tips that you can take to the bank today. Number 1 is going to be to not drink fluids with your meals. If you're drinking 7.0 on the acidity scale of water, and your stomach acid is going to be about 2.5, you're dumping that water on the fire and putting out the fire of the stomach acid. Number 2 is going to be eat in a relaxed environment. This morning I was running around trying to get the kids ready. You got those days, and I was sitting there eating my eggs and stuff as I was walking around the kitchen. That was not for the best digestion. And then number 3, I really like proper food combining, and I've seen it for myself, family, patients, where if you keep proteins and starches separate, they're going to digest better. But as soon as you combine a turkey sandwich, eggs and toast, any of these traditional American fare, it's more challenging for the body to digest. And if you've got a perfect digestive tract, you're probably going to be fine. But so many people are stressed out in that system that they're going to have a major challenge in there. So proper food combining, no liquids with your meals. If you need a sip here or there, that's fine. And then eat in a relaxed environment. So those are going to be great. And then, you can get to that point and we can do a whole talk about gallbladder. It cleanses and purges, and there's all types of things that you can do to get there. So maybe we'll do another video on that at some point.
Just remember, if you're saying, well, I have to drink water, I have to drink fluid with my field to get it down, well, that actually tells us as physicians, we're like, okay, well, now we're actually looking higher up. We're actually having the brainstem that controls our salivary production and things like that. We potentially have more of a upper neural issue going on, more of a brainstem issue than even a digestive issue. And that's something we can look into further and see, okay, how can we stimulate that process? That
And one more thing, chewing 30 to 40 times per bite, that actually stimulates stomach acid. So if you're getting reflux, if you're getting indigestion, heartburn, food sitting in your stomach, chew your food longer. My kids and my wife, they get annoyed with me for how long I'm chewing, especially if it's like crunchy cabbage or something. But it's really, really important to get that chewing to stimulate that saliva, but also it stimulates stomach acid. So people that are on like G-tubes where they just put the food directly into there, they've actually found that if they chew the food first, spit it out, and then put it into the tube, into the stomach, way better digestion for those people. All right, Ginger from Alabama, welcome. I'm 73-year-old female in good health and suddenly have high blood pressure. Have tried diet and exercise. So, first thing would be take a step back and look at the blood work. Usually there's going to be something or some things out of balance there. It's very seldom is it just I'm getting old and my blood pressure goes up. It naturally goes up. What do they say? By the time you're 60, 70, 130 over, over 88, 90, really isn't that bad. But if somebody's at 130 over 90 and you get put on a medication and that's one more dollar into the bank of the pharmaceutical company. So a lot of times they adjust these numbers down so that more people fall into those categories. But even for somebody at 73, if you're 130 over 90, really and healthy on a lot of other levels, really not that big of a concern. If it's 160 over 98, then there's definitely more of an issue there.
And remember, your vascular system is a collection of tubes. So the older we get, we slow down our repair and our regenerative process of our tissues, especially out in our capillaries or in our hands and feet. And so when those capillaries are having to struggle reproducing and regaining a nice strong hold, that they're going to collapse, and that's going to push pressure back towards your main arteries and veins where you're taking that measurement. So there are some of those things, like we've talked with a few other questions here just in the last few minutes, is there are some strategies you can take dietarily and supplement-wise and things like that to try and increase that regenerative process in those capillaries.
Hey, Zach from New York, good to see you. And Gina in New York as well. I'm stressing out, but keep my God light on. Yeah, I mean, that's, ultimately, hey, Michelle in Estes, we've just got to let some things go and know that there's so much that's really out of our control and that we can't sit there and worry about every little detail. Here's what I like to think about with worry is that if it's something that I can truly change, if it's something that I can do something about, take action, move my feet, whatever, then I'll put that energy into coming up with a solution. We've got whiteboards all over our house, our office, everything, and I'm writing. And even in my gym, I'm like, I'll have this thought, and I'll take a break from working out for a second and draw things out. And so, if there's things that you can actually create solutions to, then go for it. But otherwise, even if you feel like you need to worry about your sister in California or whatever it is, take a set amount of time, 10, 15 minutes. You could write about it, you could think about it, you could try to come up with a solution, whatever. But then put that paper in a box, like truly put it in a box, or just metaphorically put it in a box and say, I'm going to only focus on this when I give myself that time. But otherwise, that is stealing from the rest of your day. And so if you're sitting there worrying about things, that is actually stealing your life away because you are not living in this present moment and you're not really giving to those around you and being present there. So worrying is actually a way to lose more of your life and your time on this planet. So really take specific time to do that. All right, what causes a maple syrup smell on your skin or sweat when on the keto diet? Want to go through that one, Doc? You ever had that when you went keto?
Yeah. So this is, you're having a little bit of a problem processing through ketosis is essentially what's going on. And then you're actually making rotten sugars in your body.
And the problem could be, they could even be breaking down muscle.
They can. That's the scary part is, because remember, your body switches. It says, carbs are really easy to burn, and when I get carbs, I'm going to run through those. But then it has this conversion time where you switch into burning proteins. And that can be your own proteins. That's not just ones you ingest. It's your own muscle tissue. And then it has to stick in that for a while, and the brain usually realizes, hey, I need my proteins. I build everything with them. I have to build proteins and peptides and molecules. So I'm going to stop burning proteins, and I'm going to shift down into that fat burning stage. That's that whole ketosis. That's where you kind of really in that fat priority burn. Sometimes you can have a struggle cycling down into that, and that can be one of the things. And your liver's just really, really having a hard time processing through all of that.
Do you think they may not be getting enough fat percentage? Like
there is that chance, that fat percentage, as well as remember those clean fats. Not all fats are created equal, and this is
not all bacon.
This is one of the things we have to talk with people about. Like I've had to put patients on keto a lot. One of the really great fans of a clean keto is for people that have type seizures or like neurologic issues, because we really need to support head injuries, TBIs. We really need to support those good fats to the brain, but not all fats are created equal. So there are multiple components to that, but I would say the body's struggling to shift.
And a lot of people just throw a bunch of nuts in, thinking that that's a good fat, but really nuts and seeds in a keto diet aren't that great. It's going to be better coconut oil, olive oil, butter, lard, a lot of those other fats as opposed to nuts.
And remember, if you're eating a pre-packaged, pre-roasted nut, in order to produce those really quick, the temperature they cook those at is extremely high, and it usually denatures a lot of the good oils in them. Not completely, but if you're going to do it yourself, one recommended diet, if you have to have flavored nuts, always eat nuts in the raw, but if you have to have them flavored, just do a little soak brine by yourself, buy the raw nut, get a food dehydrator, and don't put it over 135 degrees. Let them kind of crisp up a little bit, and now you have a great tasty nut. But like you said, nuts are not a great I'm just going to eat a ton of nuts.
This is one of the things, if I see a patient at like month 2, 3, 4, and they're like, man, we've plateaued on our weight loss, it's almost always when they've brought nuts back in. Sometimes they bring some gluten-free grains or some things like that, but it's almost always those nuts, and you're grabbing a handful here, a handful there. All of a sudden, you're getting 300, 400, 500 more calories. It's not a great kind of fat, so that's not the best there. Hey, Jody in Louisiana and Sandy in Maine, you guys are all over the place. One more question here, then we got to run. And Sandy, great to see you. And that might be it. California. Okay. Taking fenugreek can make you smell like that too. I've never taken enough fenugreek, I guess. Potential blood clot in my leg. I have a D-dimer scheduled for Friday and ultrasound on Tuesday. I can't see the rest of that, but I'm guessing, Teresa, you're asking about blood clots. Have you used the enzymes much? Any of the fibrotic enzymes that'll help break? I mean, I don't know if it'd be enough to break down a blood clot, but on the natural side, that's a tough one.
I would definitely go with the testing and get it checked out. I mean, blood clots are something we don't like to play around with, and just make sure they're kind of resolved. There are some things you can do, like herbal-wise and, like you said, enzyme-wise, that kind of help prevent if you tend to have a tendency to do that, but you gotta definitely check it out. Make sure you're clear.
If you've got a big one, you do what basically at this point, do what they say, and then pick the pieces up later and work the best you can to prevent. So thanks for being on, guys. Thanks Dr. Jake for helping out. We love educating. If you've got any specific questions, and even if you're watching this later, put those down below. Brittany's always watching this page, and she'll be able to get those questions to us. We'll answer those. And if you've got more specific things for yourself that you're just not able to get taken care of, we have our offices in Colorado, in Nashville. We're just getting ready to open our second office in the Nashville Metroplex up in Hendersonville. So anybody from Kentucky, northward from Nashville, you're more than welcome to come down to that one. And we work with patients all over the country. So love having you guys on. Any questions at all, let us know, and we'll do the best we can to help you. Take care, guys.